What's up, guys? I'm Logan Harrington with the Academy of Death Racers. I'm here with Dustin Waldman. He's the director of Never Fuggedaboutit, with as well as Jeff Bulmer, a fellow programmer on the Fest committee. This film's playing at the Fest from January 5th to the 21st of 2024. It's playing as a part of our special presentation section, where each of us programmers was able to choose a short that we wanted to see shown at the Fest, not in official competition, and Never Fuggedaboutit was one of my selections.
Thank you.
No problem.
Appreciate it.
So I guess I have a question for you right to start. This is a short about 9/11, and I want to ask, where were you on 9/11?
I was like 10 years old. I was in school. I remember being very terrified and confused. Even I was in Florida, so I was not in New York at the time. But I do remember, I guess, like, my memories of it are, a lot of like the media sort of, the effects in the media that reached us in Florida, where it's like there was this new like somber tone all the time, especially on like the 1 year anniversary. I remember like just weird stuff on the radio where they would like play a song over and over again, and like just the way that like the culture tried to address the situation. Yeah, I don't know, that always stuck with me. And then when I started editing for a while, and just that the process of like cultural creation and like memory being created, and like tone being dictated is sort of an interesting thing to me. So that's what I was, I guess, interested in exploring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think anyone ever says it in the short, but right after 9/11, especially in the years coming after, there became this entire idea of never forget, which I think probably came up around the first anniversary, but it's so ingrained now into, well, I'm tangential to American society since I'm in Canada, but it's so integral to American society while I was there that, like, I don't know, anyone who I know who was alive and making memories at that time has never forgotten, because we can't.
For sure. Absolutely. Yeah, it is. But then at the same time, there was like, it's like, and what the short's about is removing the image of it. And so it's like, there's certain venues that it's no longer acceptable to think about these things. Actually, it's certain venues where it's like, we're never forgetting over here, but then not here. I don't know. And I don't have, I guess, like, people sometimes ask me after seeing the movie, like, do I think they should have taken the shot out? Like, I don't ideologically have a real stake in like that question, but I feel like the question itself and like the opposing sides give you a sort of interesting view of like the culture more broadly or something. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, also, it's hard to, if you're binging The Sopranos, it's hard not to realize and think about it. And that show is such an amazing document of American culture, and especially like suburban American culture, which I really, I grew up in the suburbs in Florida, so I like, and I have family from New Jersey, so I don't know. That show, I think, it's one of the best things ever made in America, and it says so much more than obviously my short could ever say about like American society and culture, and like the American sort of mind, the suburban mind at least. And yeah, I don't know. But props to David Chase. I'm glad he never sued me.
So, I mean, you were just talking about The Sopranos. I have to ask, why did you choose The Sopranos of all the media that's out there? Why that show's intro?
Well, there's something, that intro is, first of all, just it is so iconic, and it's so that sound. I mean, like I've expressed, I'm a huge Sopranos fan, so it's just fun to think about The Sopranos. But I was binging it, and I like during COVID, and I realized that the shot wasn't in the later seasons, and then I found there was like an article about it from the New York Times. There's a little like 250 word blurb or something from 2002 when they took it out, and yeah, I just couldn't help imagining that, like, because I've spent a lot of years being really stressed out in edit booths and like working on stuff that, could have like, even things that aren't necessarily like political, but then they become political because of like connotations or something. And just like being stressed in an edit sometimes because of paranoia, like being paranoid about how things are received, and your weird middle position in the hierarchy. I just couldn't help stop imagining, like, here's a case where there's like actual monumental cultural stakes at a time when America, felt in crisis. And to be that assistant editor, which is like, I spent a lot of years being an assistant editor, and it's a completely thankless job, where I mean, and a lot of, I guess, jobs are like this, obviously, but just the fact that might end up on your shoulders, and if you thought in a neurotic way about the stakes of it, it would just send you into a panic. And so I guess I wanted to represent that imagined panic that The Sopranos held me in. I feel like I didn't exactly answer your question, but I love The Sopranos.
Hey, it works.
Speaking to the role of I actually kind of wanted to speak to the role of the editor, that especially becomes clear in this movie, because in this film you've got the senior, I guess senior. He looks like he's been there for longer, Frank.
Yes, for
and
sure.
Then you've got the editor, who's the editor Michael, who's not been there quite as long. But the main crux of this film early on is Frank wanting to make a statement through his edit. And I thought it was really interesting how he's the editor, which, yes, is a thankless job, but especially for someone like me who normally just experiences an edited movie but doesn't have to usually think about the edit. I don't really think about the job of the editor. But meanwhile, right. Frank has this, he kind of it feels like he sees himself not only as capable of making a statement through his editing, but as if he has like a bit of a responsibility to do so.
Yes.
So I guess, can you speak to that? And more, I kind of wanted to ask as well about the role of what you see as the role of an editor in film, period. It's a very broad question.
No, for sure. I mean, I'm glad you are thinking about that, because I do think, to me, just first of all, like on like stakes, it's like the stakes of what actually comes out of an edit. I think Paul Thomas Anderson talks about like the process of making a movie, and then at the end you just have like a little disc, you have a DVD. And I feel like with an edit there's so much anxiety and like identity searching. There's all of this like painful work and navigation and like social navigating, and then at the end it's just like something that people watch and don't really think about. And but there is this sort of sense of both like like powerlessness and authority as an editor, I think, which is variable job to job. It depends on whatever industry or whatever company you're working for, the director, the producer. Like, it's a completely malleable position. But I do think, and I experienced this, like, you meet older editors as you're coming up and stuff, and you do hear this attitude of like, you kind of have two paths. Like, you can just stew and be angry and but just do whatever they say and like think that that it's going to go wrong, or this sort of like smartest person in the room mentality. Or you can constantly work twice as hard to like do also what you think and do what Frank takes. There's like something of him like taking the power into his own hands and like coming, because at the end of the day, like he says it, or I don't know, I guess I don't know if he says it, but he's, Frank is the one who has to do it. Like, he's the one with his finger on the button. So it's like, I don't know, you're sort of, it's a weird thing where you're funneling the will of others kind of into this thing while also being, I don't know. I'm talking a little bit from the point of view of Frank, then a little bit from my point of view. I love editing as a job because it's like I feel like I learn so much from other filmmakers, like being able to process other people's sensibilities and being able to work with that. But sometimes it's maddening that you can't just do what you think is right. And I think there's something in that middle class position that is like illuminating in like culture more broadly or something. I don't know. I'm trying to get out of pocket here, but I do think there's something in Frank's wielding the power that's kind of interesting.
And I think that what another thing that I think is a little, I don't know if this is the right term, but maybe a little less obvious in the short, but that also really stuck with me when I watched it the second and third time. Michael, the younger editor, ultimately he decides, and I guess this is a bit of a spoiler, ultimately he just like takes out the frames. He just removes that scene. And that's the final edit of that title sequence. But as you're watching him watch it back on the TV, you don't really get a full view of what he's thinking, but there's this sense that maybe he's sort of wondering, did I do the right thing? And not necessarily knowing what the right thing is at that point. And I think that's sort of, I was just reminded of that earlier when you said you don't actually have a stake in this. You just think the question's interesting.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, and I've felt like that a lot in my life, that feeling, the regret or just like thinking back did I do the right thing? Did I, and I think Michael, you hope that the character in a movie has like that something has been like synthesized in him, so he's like taken on Frank's moral compass or something, but he's also submitted to the authority in this case. And you can speculate whether Michael will become a rule follower or whatever, a political I don't know if he's going to follow the paths of like Frank or Patty, basically, or sort of the paths laid out ahead of them. One is like pure, do the job, let's get paid and go home, and one is more like, enough is enough. And yeah, I don't know, but I do, I just like scrubbed through the movie yesterday, and just noticing the last like 4 minutes are just like Michael, like I think in retrospect it's probably a little too long, of like just Michael sort of wondering, his path home and everything, and just sort of sitting in the question and absorbing it. I don't know, and hopefully that's like what media can do for us too. Hopefully that art can also be a place where we can process like bigger stuff through immaterial things. But so I don't know. Anyway.
So you kind of talked about it a little bit. Like, Frank has that super strong patriotic sense to him, while Michael, again, spoiler alert, ends up just cutting it. Like, obviously those are two types of real people we see every day. Have you had an experience like that in like an editing room where someone was super passionate about something for some reason and someone else was just like, who cares?
I have, it's a mix of various experiences and various characters, and I have, there's a couple of like editor friends and older editors I've worked with as well, who, I'll tell you one story. I used to work at an ad agency, and they're like in-house post stuff, and it was like all like rip videos. It was somewhat of a bleak, like the content we were making was sort of rough. It was like all internal stuff. And I remember the like more senior editor there, we shared a suite, and I remember he had to use Uptown Funk in a cut, and he was like, it's gonna be Uptown Funk till June. And it was like the beginning of the year, and I just remember that like the despair of setting in, that he was gonna have to listen to Uptown Funk in every edit that he did for like the rest of the year. And I don't know, there's that's like that's sort of like the mirror image of Frank, of like just being resigned to your fate. But I've met, I think some of the best editors I know are people who maybe are not making a stand on like political grounds. I mean, although a lot of good editors will assess that and are, obviously filmmakers themselves, especially in documentary stuff, like, the editor is a co-author, I think, in a bigger way than in narrative stuff. But I think some really, really good editors are relentlessly trying to are relentlessly trying to beat what's there, and like relentlessly trying to work on it and fight for something better and more. And so like working with people like that, where it's honestly like, I don't know if I have the stamina to be like that. Like people who I'm really impressed by, who are just like, they don't give up, and they're willing to like fight for what they think is right in the edit. But I think Frank's wires are a little crossed, and Patty mentions that he's got stuff going on at home, so he's I think maybe taking out some personal issues as well. But yeah, I do think he's there's something archetypal in Frank that I think Jonathan Dowerman, who played Frank, I think did an amazing job capturing. Yeah.
Well, you kind of just mentioned it, talking about who actually plays Frank. What kind of led you to casting the main three that you did?
Yeah, so very, very grateful to have found such great actors. Jonathan is played, I'm sorry, Frank is played by Jonathan Dowerman, and Patty is played by Tara Bopp, both excellent actors that I found online. And we didn't meet, it was like, 2021, there's still COVID stuff going around. And so we didn't even meet in real life, I don't think, until they were both cast. And we did like a read through online, and until basically like the fitting, I don't think I'd met them in real life. So there was a bit of a gamble because I hadn't met them, but they both, auditioned super well. I liked both of their previous work. And they were amazing to work with, so I'm very grateful. And if anyone's looking for actors, they're excellent in New York. And then Michael, who's played by my friend Nick, it was actually supposed to be played by my friend Michael, but he didn't want to do it. So because I had an earlier version of the script that borrowed some ideas for my friend Michael's life, but they didn't make it into the final movie. But I kept the name. Nick is my friend who is an editor, who I met working as an editor at the Museum of Modern Art together, and we became good friends and have made other films together. And I think one of my other friends was like, well, I was looking for someone to cast for Michael, and I'd put out in that same casting call to try and find someone for Michael. And then I think one of my friends was like, what about Nick? Why don't you have Nick read for it? And I was like, oh, that's actually a genius idea. And he's amazing in it. I mean, he's a very charismatic and also smart filmmaker and editor, and helped me edit the movie. But he did he knew so well that thing I've been talking about, of that like despair of the assistant editor, and that paranoia. And I think he really brought it to the movie. So I'm very, very grateful for the actors in the movie. I can't say enough like how much they sort of the unexpected success of this movie is like so much due to the three of them. So I'm very grateful to them.
And I think this isn't necessarily these aren't physically demanding roles, but I think that all of them, especially Nick, really bring a very good level of, they really do a really good job outside of the dialogue as well. Like that zoom in on Nick right at the end, that's not that long, but feels really long. Like that works because Nick is able to portray so much just in a guy watching The Sopranos.
For sure. Yeah, he was great. And I love, as a filmmaker, like I really like those spaces as well. Like I like the silent looks and just watching, and like the power of that stuff. And that zoom's actually a digi zoom. Don't tell anyone, because I was like, Nick is doing such a good job in this scene, and it was like, and that's actually also Nick's house, but like in Brooklyn. But yeah, I thought his performance was so powerful. I was like, we got to go in. Also, I thought the movie needed one last, like, it needed something, it needed a little intense, little cherry on top. But yeah, he's great. He's great. He's a great actor. I hope he gets more roles.
So I watched a couple of your other films in preparation for this. Mostly, when I say a couple of your other films, the one that I watched most recently was I believe it was called The Bartender's Barber.
Oh wow, you watched that? Oh boy, that was my thesis film from college. I haven't rewatched that in like 6 years. Probably more than that.
Yeah, I noticed it was kind of old.
It's old. That's like my first.
Really good though.
Yeah, my friend who's an amazing DP shot it. He lives in LA. Edan Menon. Check him out. But yeah, and I had an amazing crew and yeah, that movie. I don't know if I want to talk too much about that movie because I'm kind of embarrassed by it, but
that's okay. I don't have too many questions about it.
Okay.
The main reason I brought it up was to brag that I did in fact do some research.
No, and that's amazing. I really appreciate that.
But also you wrote that film and you wrote this one.
Yeah.
And so I kind of wanted to ask, what is your writing process like for when you're writing your films?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure that out myself. The one thing I'll say is, I like to get up early and have coffee, and that's when the most important things happen. Is when you wake up early and have coffee, and it's quiet, and you can sit and think, and somehow I managed to. I'm now I've been trying to write longer form stuff, so I've been like trying to be a good student and learn more about like structure and stuff that I really hated thinking about and thought was like really hacky, but now I've been trying to learn it all. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I usually get little ideas all the time for just little lines or images or key situations or something. I mean, Never Forget About It was honestly an outlier in my process because the process of developing that movie was I was watching The Sopranos. I realized that they had taken the shot out. I thought of the situation, and then I thought of the title, and then I thought, oh shit, like I have to make it now. There's no going back. And that script was like, there was a lot of stuff that got left out because I'm not a very good. I don't know if I'm a very good editor in writing. I think I'm a good editor on the computer. And or like, during production, I was quite ruthless. We like cut stuff the day up, like, during the shoot. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've always written, I write lots of different stuff. I'm hoping to move more into like a writing capacity in some way, but we'll see how that goes. For now, I'm still editing, which is good, which I like. But yeah, thanks for watching The Bartender's Barber. That's funny. I like the actors in that one too, and I feel like I was just trying to pretend to be more mature than I was when I made that movie. Anyway, I was 21 when I made that, and now I'm 32. Old movie. Anyway, I like my earlier movies that I don't want to put online from college because they're crazier. But that one.
I mean, I'd love to see them, but
I can send you some films that I've thrown in the garbage.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I guess people watching this interview probably won't see those, but
right. Well, maybe. I mean, you tell me, but
yeah.
Maybe they will. Maybe you guys will get the. I have like one or two movies that I routinely take offline and put online depending on how I'm feeling. So, but yeah, I really appreciate your guys' support, and I'm excited to see a lot of the films. How do I sign up for the fest to see the films?
Yeah, so you guys can head on over to AoDR.net, and you can get your tickets there. Fest runs from, again, January 5th to the 21st in 2024. Again, Dustin's Never Forget About It will be in special presentation. And Jeff and I know we both want to thank you, Dustin, for joining us. And
thank you guys. I really appreciate it. For sure. Yeah. Can I do you guys, well, maybe we can't talk about it. Do you stream the Oscar movies, or how do you guys do that? That's
no, not at the fest.
Okay, I see.
if there's any that you're worried about finding, we know where to find them.
Okay.
Usually, we know all the legal ways to find them.
Yes. Okay. Great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. What do you guys think? I just saw Ferrari last night. You guys see that?
I haven't yet. But is it worth it? Should I go see it?
I mean, if you guys like Michael Mann.
I know shockingly little Michael Mann, actually. I have like a bunch of movies I've wanted to watch from him and haven't gotten to him.
He's amazing. I love him. And to me, he's like the right level of spectacle and thematic exploration, and he's really cool. I like him. And Ferrari was good. It had some goofy stuff in it. Like the Italian accents are pretty funny, but it's really good. It's special. He's great. What are you guys excited about for this year?
Well, actually, my Film Independent membership just went through, so I have the screeners ready to go.
Amazing.
So I'm excited to look through that and see all the stuff that I wasn't able to catch this year. Hopefully, I know there's a couple of glaring omissions that I'm hoping they add later, but
gotcha.
Very cool. I am personally really dying to see Teacher's Lounge. I've been sitting on that one for ages. That's the international submission for Germany, I believe. Right, Jeff?
Oh, interesting.
Yes. Yeah, I saw it at TIFF, and it was very good.
Really?
I'm a teacher,
wow.
so like I really want to see it. I think it'll be an interesting experience.
Huh. Oh boy. Cool. I'll have to check this out. I haven't heard of this.
So you heard it here first, guys. Go see Ferrari, go see the Teacher's Lounge, and go see Never Forget About It.
Thank you very much.
Playing at the AoDR from January 5th to January 21st, alongside over 50 other great short films. There's some really good stuff there. I hope that Dustin, you'll have a ticket, I'm sure. So like we'll make sure that you get to see all the good ones.
Love it. Thanks so much, guys. I appreciate it.